Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. This is Monday, July 8th for Major League Baseball. Quick little recap here. Last week, a slightly winning week for the A grades. But you know what? We've had two of these weeks, maybe if you count three of the last seven, that have been a lot weaker. But the other four being really good. If this is a bad week, folks, this is incredible. Look at this. Now, 7-week total. If you're just a $10 bettor, you've made over $1,000 just betting the Eagles. You turned $500 into $1,000, I should say. You made over $500. And if you're betting 20 or 50 or whatever, just multiply by that. So again, reasons to get all of the A-grade players over on Dub Club. We're going to do two games today. And it's really late in the day, so we're going to kind of get right to it here. But I also want to let you all know, there'll be no show for Tuesday or Wednesday this week. I kind of mentioned this last week that we're going to be a little bit hit or miss here before the All-Star break. Hopefully, we'll get consistent. It may not be early, unfortunately. It'll be a little bit later in the day, just as the way life is going here. For me, but no show Tuesday or Wednesday, as the little one is going to have surgery. Many of you know he was in the hospital for a while, getting a feeding tube because he struggles with eating as part of his coordination issue, and now he's getting surgery to get that feeding tube from the nose to a little bit more long-term solution into his stomach. That'll happen tomorrow. He'll be overnight. So I won't be around to do a show here for Tuesday, Wednesday. But everybody on Dub Club will still get all the A-grade picks, everything I like, and available to me. I'll be able to chat about what I like, so that access, insights, debates, whatever. We have all that stuff on the Discord chat. So I want to get to it here. The model, again, pretty ho-hum. But if you've been backing the model picks, along with the A-grade, you're betting a little bit more. But you're making even more. So again, tons of reasons to be over there on Dub Club, including the full show. I'm going to do two games here for the free show on YouTube, and there'll be a second link to what I'm calling Study Hall here. We did this a little bit last year, bringing it back now, and I'll talk about the rest of the games here today on Monday. Details, projections, full shows, more picks, etc. All sorts of benefits over there on Dub Club. And again, just some quick reminders here, though. Picturetheprofessor.com/new. That'll get you information about the community and the model. It's a player-based model. The ratings reflect the current roster. That means teams that are doing better or worse overall might not display here if they're not at full health. Obviously, the Phillies offense, Braves offense, Dodgers offense, right? Some of those might be, useful to note there with regards to that. The average grade's 100. That'll be shown on every screen. Higher implies more runs per just an average game. I do not know what will happen in one game. We don't put all our money in one game. We put 1 to 2% of our bankroll, maybe 3 or 4 at most if we really like it on one game. We spread our money around because we win overall pretty well. We slow and steady build our bankroll, and that's really what it's all about. This is exactly how the professionals do it. And if you go back to those previous slides, if you weren't betting $10, if you were betting $500, you'd have made thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's how the professionals do it. They just put $500, $1,000 on a bunch of different games. Maybe not, and I'm not betting every game necessarily, right? But they know that in the long, they don't know one game what's going to happen, but they know in the long run they're going to win more than they lose, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. So what we mean by that is 55% winners, they are going to lose 9 out of 20 times. We don't know if it's one of the wins or one of the losses, but in the long run, we know what price to bet in order to profit. That's what we've shown here for years and years and years. Of course, though, as always, take what you like and leave the rest. Last but not least, if you could like the show, we would like that. We're going to start off here with a late afternoon game, Cardinals and Nats. So for those of you who have notifications turned on YouTube and you're getting the free show here, having that will help you because you'll be able to see this before the game happens and my insights on it than those people kind of straggling along a little bit later. It's going to be a, slightly warm day here in Washington, a very warm day, mid-90s. What does it mean? That means the ball is going to fly. If it wasn't for the really hot temperatures, I would like both of these starting pitchers, but you're talking about mid-90s, a slight breeze, so just a slight wind. So the wind's not going to help too much, but the ball in that park, already pretty hitter-friendly. When it's hot like this, can fly. Now, that doesn't mean it will. You got to hit the right fly balls. So as long as we get to these pitchers, keep the ball on the ground. Obviously, it's not that simple. It's not that easy to do, but if they can, that's going to make this a pretty high variance total, in my opinion, but we would have this total a lot lower. I like both of these pitchers. Miles Mikolas has looked really good lately. I was kind of down on him at the start of the season, and while his ERA is still pretty high at 5.19, xFIP in the low 4s, he actually projects right around the league average. He got a 105 grade and 100 is average. But based off what he's done the last several starts, on average, maybe not every single one, but the last handful of starts, he's actually pretty decent here. It just sets up again for it to be a tough day to keep the ball in the yard. But otherwise, he's actually looked a lot better than I expected. I thought previously. Mitchell Parker, a guy I love. I've preached him all season that he's a good pitcher. Depending on when you've looked at it, he's been somewhere between really good and above average in the model, kind of up and down based off of each start. Again, a young guy's going to have a little bit more variance each start because we're still learning about him. But that 3.61 ERA, that's pretty spot on. A FIP and XFIP, both in the upper threes. I really like him. Again, it's going to be tough to keep the ball in the air, but otherwise I do like these starting pitchers. I like both of these bullpens too, and I'm not overly high on either offense. The Cardinals offense still grades out as okay. They've done a little bit better here as of late. The Nats offense, they're scoring runs when they play in the right conditions, but otherwise they score a lot of runs like say on Saturday, but otherwise they've had a lot of games where the offense has really been weak. We've got this pretty close to a 50-50 game, and folks, this is an interesting one. No official pick. We've got quadruple C grades as the official picks on all this. We lean Nats, and I think that's because we're a little bit higher on Mitchell Parker probably than the market is. Again, I'm really high on him. I don't see anything that in his underlying metrics that looks fake. So we lean Nats here 52% of the time they win. The current price here as of this morning, it was minus 106. And so maybe a tiny bit of value. First five, kind of a similar story here. We make that price, the first five price minus 113. You can get minus 111. So 2 cents of value. And again, all of these information, all these numbers, everything on Dub Club. So if you're with us on Dub Club, go ahead and pull out that sheet, pull up that link, and make sure you can see kind of all these numbers, all these metrics, everything here all in one place. So we would lean Nats. It's not an official pick. I want a slightly better price. Really, I'm looking for anything even money or better on the Nats. Makes a lot of sense. And the total is really interesting. The model actually leans first five under on the strength of these starting pitchers, but goes full game over. Again, both just lean. So I kind of think what that's telling us, if you're looking at this game, you're doing your own handicapping, you have your own thoughts about it. If you kind of like the under, if you kind of like the pitching in this matchup, I think go first five under, try to get out of Dodge with that hot weather, and say, hopefully these starting pitchers, one of them's on and can really hold the other one down. Maybe the other one gives up 3 runs, 4 runs. Maybe you get a 4-0, 3-1 type first five. You can get under 5. If you kind of like the over, go full game. These bullpens are solid, but we want those extra innings because the extra 4 innings, extra 3.5 innings, because we want more opportunities for the ball to fly out, and we want to decrease that variance. And the fact that this is pretty close to a coin toss, you might actually get extra innings. And of course, with the 9, the push protection on 9, we like that as well because 4-4 gets us at least to a push. So again, if you're leaning over, I'd say go full game. If you're leaning under, I'd say go first five. If you're looking aside, I'd lean Nats. None of those are official picks for me, but that's where I'd be putting my money if I had to. But of course, folks, always shop around. Every bit of price that you can get better matters. You win more when you win. You lose more when you lose. When we talk about thresholds and we say, I'm looking for this price, why is that so important? Because the probability of these teams winning, of us going over or under a certain number, doesn't change. It is what it is. Now, we don't know what it is. We're trying to assess it, but it is what it is. And so the idea, though, is that every bit of better price we get means that we can be a little bit that much more off on our projection and still have a positive expected value play. Every bit of price better that we can get helps us in that we know we're going to win some and we know we're going to lose some. But if we're winning just a little bit more every time we win and losing a little bit less every time we lose, that can be the difference between losing and winning in the long run. So always shop around, always have multiple books in your portfolio. Folks, if you don't have an account with them yet, look at BetUS today. That link's in the show description. 125% bonus on your first ever 3 deposits up to a couple $1,000s. Again, check BetUS out today if you don't have an account there already.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
And then for one more game on the free show before we switch over to Study Hall and cover everything else over exclusively for our loyal patrons over in Dub Club. Twins and the White Sox. Chris Paddock and Chris Flexen, about all the Chris's here. Both these guys have ERAs in the low 5s, but the underlying metrics and historical data tell us a different story. Those historical metrics and underlying metrics here kind of align for each pitcher. Paddock is a better pitcher than Flexen. XFIP of 405. Historical data, using all of everything we can, projects him more in the low 4s. Chris Flexen, that 508 ERA looks pretty spot on. 505 XFIP for the season, projects slightly higher than that. This is a massive discrepancy here between the starting pitchers. It's not that Chris Paddock is amazing. He's very league average, but he's a much better pitcher than Chris Flexen. Of course, the Twins bullpen is extremely good. The White Sox bullpen, extremely not. We saw that yesterday against the Marlins. Offensively, the Twins offense pretty good. Not 100% right now. The Twins offense is one that's had a lot of discussion here because obviously Royce Lewis being out. Now Carlos Correa getting hit in the hand yesterday. I believe at this point he seems questionable. The X-rays were negative, so it kind of just depends on how sore that is today. If he's going to go, he's kind of 50-50. But this Twins offense, when fully healthy, is for sure a top 10 offense, maybe even a top 5 offense. We've seen them score a ton of runs when they're at full strength, but when they're not, they get a little bit weaker. So we're kind of just in the middle at this point for them, saying right now they're not fully healthy. They're not bad. They're not great. This White Sox offense probably getting better than it was, but it's still really bad. This White Sox team still absolutely stinks. We got the Twins winning this about 2 out of 3 times. Last night, we sent this out to our people on Dub Club at -174 for the Twins. We went with the money line then rather than the run line or the -1. We thought -174 was a pretty good price. It's still kind of about that same price right now. It is a little steep. If you want to look at an alternate path on that, of course you can. Last night, when we sent this out, the way the game was being projected was more so that the money line held more value than the run line or the -1. That still holds true this morning, but a subtle shift in the price and just a subtle shift in rerunning the model with an extra day of data, which doesn't change much, but just a tiny little bit, just a rounding here or there, a rounding here kind of thing. We do now have a B grade. The model likes the Twins -1. It would only be a C grade on the run line at the current price of -115. I mentioned this yesterday when we sent out the picks to the Dub Club. What I think is happening here is the same thing we see a lot of times. A lot of times with these bigger favorites, the run line doesn't actually offer that much value. The money line does. We have to be careful how we play it. We don't throw this in every money line parlay we do. We don't try to make 17 money line parlays to try to win the lottery. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine, but that's not the smartest recommended play. Understand what you're doing. If you're having fun, that's fine, but that's not the money-making way to go about this. But a lot of times what happens is the people who are putting enough money on this to kind of influence any sort of line are looking at this and they have the same thoughts that you do, which is probably, I don't really love that big -174. I'm going to play them on the run line instead. So that creates a little bit less value in the run line because more people playing the same thing is going to take away a little bit of the value, and or the books kind of know that's a possibility, and so they kind of already shade it that way. I think the run line, again, is C grade for the Twins. It still makes a lot of sense. That's why White Sox bullpen's bad. If the Twins get up early, this game could be a runaway. So I don't think the run line's a bad play by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that at the current price, there's a little bit more value on the money line than the run line. And as of this morning, if you did want to split your wager and play the Twins -1, that does eke into model-approved territory. So depending on how you want to play this, you got a couple different options. A lot of it's personal preference, but this number should start with a 2 for the Twins. So White Sox team is bad. Paddock is decent enough. And this Twins team overall is a solid team. So running back to Twins there. With regards to the total, we would lean under for the full game in the first 5. White Sox totals are terrifying, and I think I mentioned this before. We've done well with some of them overall. We lost one yesterday, so we haven't won all of them. But we've done pretty well with them overall because in general, they're more of a low-scoring team, and that bullpen, while it's bad, isn't as bad as the offense has been bad. But that being said, it's a little terrifying because you see what happened on Sunday, in Miami. So we would have a lean towards both the first 5 and the full game under. I'm not touching either one of them. I think that lean makes a little bit of sense too, given the fact that Correa is questionable and Royce Lewis being out. But again, the strongest play on this is just Twins money line. So I don't think there's any need to get cute and play with the total. But again, for those looking for that information, that's kind of just my 2 cents on that. And that's your show again. Full show coming to everyone on Dub Club. We thank you if you're over there with us for your loyal support. We also thank BetUS for helping us keep the lights on here. As always, we do thank you for watching. We wish you the best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.